Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mupo and Friends. We are,
Manuela Messina,
and I'm Michelle Mupo.
and we're brought to you by Mupo TV.
And you could catch all our shows and many others at www.mupotv.com. And if you tune in Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern, I have to say you could see the latest version of Mupo and Friends, but we've had some pretty cool guests tell things on Mupo and Friends that they've never told before.
This is very, very true. And we want to thank you for tuning into our show, where we love to bring you awesome celebrities and entrepreneurs you want to know about. Now, Michelle, let me ask you, did you have a Mupo awesome week?
I did have a Mupo awesome week, as I always do. And I want to also thank you for filling in for Jess.
You are so welcome.
Tell me about your week. What kind of week?
You know what? It's been phenomenal. It started off really, really good. Everything has been great. I'm just so honored to be here and help you out this week on Mupo and Friends. I am beyond pumped for our next guest.
Aw, me too. I am very pumped myself. So with that said, we're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back with our special guest.
Hello and welcome everyone to Mupo and Friends. Our special guest today is an actor, writer, director, and producer with over 100 film and TV credits. He was a series regular on Stumptown, No Activity, The Blacklist Redemption, and has guest starred on Curb Your Enthusiasm, Inside Amy Schumer, and Law & Order's Special Victims Unit. His extensive film work includes the Netflix original The Guilty, the Disney Plus original Lady and the Tramp, and I, Gilbert, which he wrote, produced, directed, and starred in. Please welcome Adrian Martinez. Hello, Adrian.
Hello, Adrian.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm here with my fan club.
So nice.
They'll come later.
So how was the idea for I, Gilbert born?
Yes. Well, this is a passion project that took me 10 years to actualize. I wrote it 10 years ago. And it's been quite a journey. But basically, it was born out of two things. I was sitting on the subway and there was an attractive lady sitting opposite me. And then this man came up and just started photographing her really close to her face. And she was like, "What the hell are you doing?" And she was very offended. And he very sort of callously just got off the train, the next stop, never said a word, never laughed, never did anything overtly weird. He just took photos of her and left. And I just couldn't stop thinking about it. Like, who is this guy? And how is it that he thinks he could do something like this? And then, my daughter just became a teenager, and I was just thinking, who is she going to wind up in this dating pool when it comes time for her to date in her 40s? So I actually, I just really put it all together because I just saw a sort of growing disconnection in the culture and in the world that I was living in, and I just had to give it a voice.
And has there ever been a tragedy in your life comparable what Gilbert faced? And if so, how did you overcome that?
Definitely not like what Gilbert's gone through. But certainly, the death of my mom was a tough hit about 5 years ago. She and I were very close. I miss her every day. And of course, we're all going through COVID and this disconnection that kind of like is taking place. And we're all trying to connect in some way. And that's what I Gilbert represents, is three different people who are disconnected in different ways. And so there's my character who uses photographs of people that he wants to connect with, but he doesn't have the skills to do any more than that. So he just clumsily tries to connect with people by taking their photos. There's Jana, the female lead, played wonderfully by Dasha Polanco, who you may know from In the Heights or Orange is the New Black. And she's disconnected. She suffers from body dysmorphia, and she is trying to heal herself. And then there's Tony, played by Raul Castillo, who we just saw in Army of the Dead on Netflix. And he's definitely suffering from PTSD as an Iraqi war vet. And so it's three very different people, very much trying to connect in ways that are unique to themselves. But really, it's an allegory for what we're in. Like everyone's trying to connect. Everyone feels disconnected at some point in this crazy time we're in.
So true. And have you ever had a secret crush like Guy Gilbert did?
Well, yes. I've had crushes on a lot of people I've worked with, but I had to keep it to myself, and because they were attached, and that was that. I just did a music video for Imagine Dragons for their Cutthroat song, and I've always had a crush on Olivia Munn, who was my sidekick in that. I'm so happy she's got a baby now and a new life with her baby and her boyfriend. But yeah, I mean, in high school, it's interesting. I went to an all boys high school, Cardinal Hayes High School in the Bronx, and I never felt so lonely in my life. But every once in a while, the librarian would come in, and she was, I don't know, I still can't remember her name, but she was so breathtakingly beautiful. And that was it. I had such a crush on her. She was the one female in the building, and I was just like, oh my God, there she is.
I love it.
Oh, amazing. Oh my gosh. And would you say it was overwhelming or more energizing to wear so many hats for I, Gilbert?
Well, it was the first time I had done it. I had done directed short films in college. And I told myself, okay, I have 20 days to shoot this feature. So I'm basically just going to do one short film a day. That's how I wrapped my head around it. And it was easy in terms of acting and directing, going back and forth. Excuse me. But producing was very hard for me. Anything having to do with money is stressful to me. And there were times when my co-producer would come up to me and I would have to sign checks before an important scene. And I was just like, do we have to do this now? Oh, yes, absolutely, before lunch, because otherwise we're not going to get paid for the, okay. And I would sign all these checks. So that felt overwhelming to me, just dealing with money, dealing with people that took better jobs or more lucrative jobs, and then having to replace them last second. Shooting a feature at this price point, like there's so much that could go wrong, and so much did. But I was supported by the cast and crew overall, and that got me through it.
It's beautiful.
Did you already have a cast in mind when writing the script?
Actually, I knew Gilbert was going to be played by Adrian Martinez. We gave Adrian 2 callbacks, and he just knocked them out of the box. He really brought it home on that last one. For the role of Jana, I actually had no idea. And it was my wife, Emmy, who said, listen, you have to look at Dasha Polanco. She's fantastic in Orange is the New Black. And I hadn't even seen that show. I tend to watch more movies than serials. And so I just basically started watching that show, and I could see what Emmy meant, which was that she was completely authentic, completely down to earth. You believed everything she said and felt 100%. And so Bernard Telsey Casting reached out to her on my behalf, and we wound up talking for about an hour about the movie and the character. And she really dug the script, and that was it. She was Jana.
Amazing. And I say that Charlie Chaplin was used to characterize Gilbert's father. Does that have a special meaning for you?
Well, I mean, Chaplin's a personal hero of mine. I grew up loving Chaplin. Chaplin was a big deal. I mean, I've seen City Lights, I don't know how many times. And so I knew that Chaplin was sort of like one of the first actors to also produce, write, direct. And he was one of the first to form United Artists. And the sort of empowerment that came from that was very inspiring to me. Like I looked at what he did, and I decided after years of being an actor exclusively that I wanted to scare myself and do something, a project that really would shake me to my core. And that's what I Gilbert did. And so taking on those four hats was kind of like an homage to Chaplin. And so then I thought, well, why not put him in the movie in some way, in some elusive way? And so the character of Rodolfo is an homage to Chaplin. But it was Cynthia Hargrave, my co-producer, who passed on this past summer. She was the one that said, you know, you have to make the Rodolfo character more emotionally connected to you, because right now it just feels more like a gimmick. And so I dug deep and I said, well, what if he's my father? And she said, yeah, that would do it. That would do it. And so the character is a supporting player, but he's actually takes on a whole new life, knowing that that dynamic is at play, where he's my dad, and all the connections and improvisations that took place during the film were based on that. And so it brought a weight to the role that wasn't there before.
Have there been any times where you had difficulty connecting like Gilbert did?
100%. I mean, anyone who has felt disconnected has had a Gilbert moment. And for me, absolutely. Like most of high school, I didn't really connect with much of anyone. And certainly during COVID, it was difficult to connect because we were all, particularly the first wave of it, you know, we were all just so terrified and wondering what was going to happen. So I've absolutely have moments of disconnection, and this business, you know, show business is tough, and it can make you feel, you know, disconnected and isolated, and like, what's going to happen? Will I ever work again? All those questions come to you. So absolutely.
Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with our guest, Adrian Martinez.
And we are back with Adrian Martinez. So how does the character develop process differ between being a series regular and making a film?
I mean, I see the approach the same, whether you're doing a commercial, which is like the haiku of acting, or a TV series, which is kind of like a play, and then there's the movie, which is the big novel, you know. The character doesn't know what world he's in. The character is the character. And so to me, the approach is always the same. Like, what I always think about this quote from John Casale, who, I don't know if you guys know him, but he was an actor. He did 5 movies and they all were Oscar nominated. So the 2 Godfathers, he did The Deer Hunter, all these fantastic movies. And he would say, find out what the character's greatest pain is, because we basically live trying to avoid pain or in pain. And that really stuck with me. And so when I approach a role, it's always with that in mind.
And I know you mentioned the Imagine Dragons video of Cutthroat. How did you get approached for that?
Olivia called me and she said, do you want to do this? And I was like, yeah.
Right on.
She said, these guys do videos, and when they do videos, billions of people with the letter B see these videos, because I had never done a music video. And I said, well, I'm more comfortable working with videos for, you know, dozens of people with the letter D. And she says, well, you're going to have to do something, you know, to get out there more. And so we did it. It was a crazy shoot in Las Vegas, and we had the best time.
That's so cool, doing something completely out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
So for the video, were you given information about your character, or did you have to come up with that yourself?
Oh, they had an outline. It was basically unscripted, but I kind of knew that I was going to be this weird nerd, just really giving Olivia's character a hard time, which is harder than you think because she's such a wonderfully sweet person. But we dove right in, and I gave her a hard time. But if you've seen the Cutthroat video, you know it doesn't go well for me.
Did you have any specifics that you look for when deciding whether or not to do a project? Do you ever turn things down?
I do turn things down, and sometimes it's not even because of things you would think of, but sometimes, like I was offered a movie in Hawaii, and you would think, how could you turn down a movie in Hawaii? I mean, just go, you're in Hawaii. But the money wasn't right, and I have a certain level I won't go under no matter what. And so that was that. Because I got bills, man. I got bills.
Good for you. Good for you.
But I don't just take anything. Like if it's a stereotype, I don't do much of those. No, I don't like that. If it's in any way having to do with the abuse of children, I won't do that. You know, I can't do that. So yeah, you know, I do say no sometimes. I do self-tapes, I get offers. It just depends.
The Guilty is about a 911 operator who gets overly involved with a call. What would you have done in that position?
I probably would have gone to the men's room and not come back. You know, I think that I just basically, I don't know. I mean, listen, I think Jake Gyllenhaal was so fantastic in that movie. I think he should have gotten an Oscar nomination. He basically is the whole movie. That movie was shot in just 10 days.
Wow.
And it was shot still at the time when we were in COVID and people were still nervous. Omicron had not come out yet, and people were like, so it was a very tight set. One set, every actor called in. The only on-camera talent was myself, Jake, and two other people. And so it was a very tight set. And Jake is a beast. He destroyed the role. And I would hope that I would summon the courage that his character does in trying to save this person's life.
Now, W.C. Fields said, never work with children or animals. What was it like working with the dogs? Lady and the Tramp.
Come back here. Well, it was a lot of sweat. I'll just say that much. We filmed it in Savannah, Georgia in the summer. And I was wearing like a polyester suit. So, and chasing these dogs is, and I'm not in the best of shape. So it was a lot of physical demand on me. It was a lot of running and sweating and chugging water and just trying to stay up with the dogs. What's interesting about them is they were cast from shelters that they searched like 300 of them across the country. And then they had to cast their stand-ins. So there were dogs that were just like there to just like run like long distances. And there were dogs that were there just for the close-ups, the 2 stars.
Wow.
Yeah. And then they were CGI dogs. So sometimes I was actually chasing a metal ball, which was Tramp. And I would just have to pretend and emote to this metal ball, which they used to spot with the computer where Tramp was going to be, and then they fixed it in post. So it was a challenge to actually perform. opposite, technically nothing, because it was just a metal ball that you chased, that you spoke to, that you engaged with. But that did remind me of a time when I was working on a movie, and the star, who shall remain nameless, was basically he didn't do off-camera work unless you were an A-lister. So he took off when it came time for my coverage to speak to him. And they literally put a piece of, like a Post-it on top of this pole. And they said, okay, that's pretty much where his face would be. And I had to do the whole scene talking to a pole. And when you see the movie, you would never know. You would just never know the difference. So, you just kind of have to have your own world set up and be ready to execute.
See, that's real acting, guys. Okay. We're going to take a quick commercial break and we will be right back.
And we are back with Adrian Martinez. So you've also done stage work. Is that something you'd like to revisit in the future?
100%. I love the stage. I had the wonderful opportunity of being directed twice by Philip Seymour Hoffman, may he rest in peace. And it was at the Public Theater and Union Square Theater. And it was just the best. We all know Philip Seymour Hoffman for his brilliant performance in Capote and so many other movies. But as a director, I feel like he was just as good, if not better, because of his relentless pursuit for excellence. He was just really tough in a good way. And he was a wrestler in high school, and he would talk to the actors when he directed in wrestling metaphors. And he talked about this one wrestler in particular who had won the gold medal 3 Olympics in a row. And then the 4th one, he lost, and he wound up getting the bronze medal. And he took off his shoes and he just slammed them down on the mat. And he's sobbing and he's sweating and he's bleeding, and he pumps his hand up in the air. And he said, "That's it. I've given it all I have. That's it." And Phil said, that's the investment that you have to bring in every take, if it's a movie, and every performance, if it's a play. And to this day, I get chills thinking about it, because obviously when you look at Phil's filmography, that's what he did, to be sure, and that's what I aspire to.
That's excellent advice too. And you said you had said once Hector Elizondo inspired you. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but who else gave you inspiration?
Well, I mean, Hector was a wonderful guy. I mean, we did a pilot for NBC called, what was it called? Something about dead. It was funny. I promise you it was funny. But it didn't go, but I had a chance to meet him. And, because Hector Elizondo, he came, like, he was doing Pretty Woman and all these movies. And he was always like the only Latino actor in the movie. And he had this funny name. And it was just like, he didn't change his name to Joey Pants or whatever it was. He just kept his name, like Hector Elizondo. Yeah, that's my name. That's it. Deal with it. And I always found inspiration from them. But I tell you, beyond him, I mean, Chaplin again, but also my mom. My mom Listen, nobody worked harder. Nobody worked harder. She cleaned offices that didn't belong to her for 12 hours a night. She would bury her feet in a bucket of hot water when she got home exhausted, just so that I could go to a private school when I was a kid, because she was convinced that that was the best education for me. And she was willing to work hard and do any conceivable sacrifice. And yeah, she was tough and loving, and she remains my hero.
Yes, I got goosebumps on that one. I'm not gonna lie. The love. Oh, yeah, that was so beautiful. Such a tribute to her. And she'd be very proud. I'm sure she told you, but if she hasn't, she'd be
Oh,
very,
thank
very
you.
proud.
Thank you. I mean, I have this mug and it has her name on it, Alma. I don't know if you
Oh,
can see that, but yeah.
Aw.
Here's to you, Alma.
it's so beautiful. So tell me, what is the most important thing that you've been taught with the business?
You know, it's interesting. I just saw this documentary with Rita Moreno, which I recommend. And she talks about resiliency. You have to be resilient. It's hard. It's hard for everybody.
Mhm.
But like my mother would say, nobody's forcing you. She'd always curl that finger, you know, like Gollum, you know, like nobody's forcing you. Um,
I love it.
and I was just like, yeah, you're right, Ma. No one's forcing me. But resilience, you know, I've been at this a long time, and I just, there's something about me. I guess I got it from my mom, but I can't quit. I won't quit. I won't stop, you know. And if there's not an opportunity, I'm going to make it myself. I just keep going. I wasn't getting an opportunity to play like the lead, the number one on the call sheets. So I made myself the number one on the call sheet, and I just keep going, you know. And I just feel resilience really is the key to success, not just in my business, but any business. You just have to just keep going. Unless there's overwhelming evidence not to keep going, like you just don't really have the talent or whatever it is, keep going.
Amen. And what's next on your project list? I mean, are you going to be working with Jason Momoa again? 'Cause I will absolutely.
I would love to do my own, and I'm actually working on this. I would love to do my own series that I created, and I'm playing the title role. So I have something in the oven. It's baking. It's fluffing up nicely, and
Nice.
there should be a nice announcement very soon about it. And so that's very exciting, because I feel like it's a streaming world now, and we just live in it. So
Yeah.
I feel like I've got the right show for it. And I'm here in New Orleans filming Renfield, which has been a real blast.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break and come back with the conclusion of our interview with the amazing Adrian Martinez.
And we are back with Adrian Martinez. And before we wrap things up, we have one last question we want to ask you. If you were to interview yourself, what question would you ask and what would be your answer?
Would you do it again? And the answer is yes, because I feel like being an artist is a calling, like the priesthood, like anything else. I didn't choose it. It chose me, and it chose me to represent people. And art is so important now, more than ever. There's a famous acting coach called Stella Adler who would say,
Yeah.
life beats down and crushes the soul. Art reminds you that you have one. And so I take my responsibility as an artist very seriously. I do my best with everything I do. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
That was a great question and an amazing answer. I love that so much. We want to thank you. It was such a pleasure chatting with you today. And please look for Adrian Martinez in Stumptown on Amazon Prime, The Guilty on Netflix, Lady and the Tramp on Disney Plus, and I, Gilbert on Amazon Prime. You can follow, like, and subscribe to Adrian on Facebook under Adrian Martinez or facebook.com/Taste of Adrian, on Instagram and Twitter at Taste of Adrian, and his website, www.adrianmartinez.net.
And always, thank you for tuning into Mupo and Friends, courtesy of Mupo TV. And you could catch all these shows and many others at www.mupotv.com. That's www.mupotv.com.
This is Emanuela Messina with our host, Michelle Mupo. And until next time,
have a Mupo awesome week.